We have Josh Schall up next, guys. He probably doesn't need much of an intro. You see him all over the place right now. His YouTube and his Instagram and podcast are going like fire. Josh is a consultant for the dietary supplement industry in food, drug, and mass, and beverage, and everything else. And I'll let him just talk more about what he does and get into this, but he's going to be discussing more of the retail marketing in and outside the four walls of your stores. So without further ado, we have Josh Schall taking the stage.
Appreciate that, Tyler. So as Tyler said, you guys are not familiar with my YouTube or anything like that. Not to say that you guys have to watch it or anything, but at the end of the day, if you have, keeping to retail marketing 101 is going to be a little bit difficult for me. I tend to get a little bit complex and throw some jargon around. So if I do get into that, I start going down the wormhole a little bit. Somebody just give me a weird look, and I swear I'll kind of get right back to it. So Tyler gave me the intro. I don't need to go through this, but I think there's a little bit of a misunderstanding sometimes around like management consulting, like what is management consulting? It's not really prominent in the nutritional supplement industry. Most of the time, consultant and broker are interchangeable. I am kind of a traditional management consultant, so I kind of always tell people it's like playing chess. So I have kind of access to one side of the chessboard, which is going to be the brand or the company that I'm working for. Essentially, we have the competitive landscape, which is the chessboard, and then the other person that's playing that is the competitor. So they're always moving, there's always different things going on. So that's generally what management consulting is. It's honestly helping one side of the chessboard compete with the other side. So marketing is both simple and complex. I tend to try to distill it down to the most simplest things, and I always tell people like the best marketing shouldn't feel like marketing. It honestly should feel like you're just sharing your passions. That's essentially what marketing should be. And like the traditional definition of marketing is essentially that you're creating relationships and satisfying customers. It's not, a lot of people think it's maybe just the ads part of it, or it's the brochures or something like that, but there's a lot of different things that go into marketing. And you've heard a few times, a few of the speakers talking about this concept of starting with your why, understanding what your why is, and want to make sure that people know, like, your why isn't to make money. Let's say that again. Your why isn't to make money, and if it is, you should just leave the room, because you're not helping the industry. You're not helping us get better. You're not helping us progress, because you're just going to be what everybody always talks down about in our industry. So we are looking at the why here because most people are starting the opposite way. You're starting with the what. You're starting with, what products do I want to offer? Maybe what industry do I want to have my retailer in? Then you're thinking about maybe how I'm going to be unique. What are going to be my differentiators? What are going to be my value propositions and things that make us a little bit different? But you're not really thinking about the why of this. The why is essentially going to be the purpose behind your business existence. That is what should be the North Star, should be what's driving everything, all your decisions. It should be what's driving your training. It should be what's driving your operations. It should be driving every aspect of your business. That should be what the why is all about. And if you guys have probably heard this, or maybe you've read Simon Sinek's book, Start With Your Why, this is where a lot of this stuff comes from. A lot of people have talked about this in so many different ways, and they've kind of associated in so many different situations, but it's about getting to that why is going to be what ultimately sustains your business for a long term, because the why, if you're able to describe the why is to some of your customers and your employees and every person that's part of your stakeholders within your business, you're able to find the right customers. You don't want all the customers. I mean, it'd be nice to have all the customers be obviously associated with your why, but the ones that come in and have no connection to you as your why, your purpose, they're going to just fall off. You're going to spend a lot of time trying to attract them. You're going to spend a lot of time on your customer acquisition costs to get those people in the door, but they're not going to sustain any level of kind of customer lifetime value. You're not going to have them be in your system for a long time because they're not really attached to your belief system, your visions, the reason why you started your business. If it's just to create more money and wealth, It's just not going to ultimately help you in the long run. There is kind of this aspect of like, people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. You guys have probably heard that in a bunch of different ways. And to bring this kind of all together in terms of like why you need to start with the why, and then how it kind of rolls upwards towards the what, or the hows and the whats, instead of doing it the opposite way, is that if you have that clarity of the why, you can essentially then distill the discipline on how you're going to do it, and then that's going to create the results, the what. That's going to create ultimately what is going to drive the business. But if you don't have that clarity of your why at the top, your North Star, you have no other understanding of how to train your employees or the customers that come in the door, which brands you want to bring into stock, anything. None of that, it all falls apart. Tyler kind of mentioned, I kind of think about at least marketing for the retail sense in the idea of like inside the four walls, and then you kind of have outside the four walls. Those are kind of the two concepts that you want to think about. And the inside the four walls is kind of where everything first starts. That's kind of where everything is essentially where you're going to get the biggest amount of bang for your buck, I guess. So before I kind of get into the idea of like inside the four walls, I think it's important for us just to understand like there's other things outside of the promotion part of marketing. I think most people, like I said at the beginning of what we were talking about, is that there's more than just the promotion part of it. Marketing, I think people just think about promotion. They don't think about the other kind of 4 Ps of marketing. It's kind of another like basic business type of thought here, in that there's the product, which for you guys is the physical product it's in the store, but it's also the store, the experience you get within the store, the signage, everything like that. That's part of the actual product, because you are running a retail business. You have the price part of it, which is also super important. Obviously, you want to price your products similar or close, or whatever your specific price analysis and which you want to have, like which position in the market you want to be. Do you want to be like a discount retailer? Do you want to be a premium retailer? Like whatever that is. There's that part of marketing. And then the promotion one, which most people associate marketing with, that's the ads, that's the brochures, that's the whatever you want to kind of do. And then there's the placement part of it. And the placement is kind of, in the sense of like a retail store, it's kind of also like what shelving, like how are you going to place the product? But that also has to do with kind of what Charlie said about the store, like where are you going to place the product, or place the retailer in the actual geographical area. Like where do you want to put it in there? There's a lot of different kind of spots you want to think about, and all that kind of goes into marketing. Marketing isn't just the idea of like the placement or the promotion part of it. So you kind of have to think about that when I'm going through my presentation, because you're going to hear me talk about some things and you're going to say, well, that's not marketing. Why is he talking about this stuff? But it all goes together to create kind of a symbiosis in terms of your marketing. So I work in a ton of different areas of the nutritional supplement industry. I also work in traditional food companies, traditional beverage companies, beauty, personal care. I'm kind of all over the place. But I also have stakeholder clients all over the place. And one of the things we hear a lot across all of the CPG, consumer packaged goods type of industries, is that retail is dying, retail apocalypse. You guys hear that all the time. You get it thrown in your face all the time, even though every day you guys wake up and you go, I'm going to choose to make that incorrect. I'm not going to be the one that closes. I'm not going to be the one that is going to be the next headline that's across my local newspaper stores, or maybe if you own a lot of stores, maybe even like national news or regional news. So the idea that physical retail is going to die is true in a certain sense, but it's also that good retail that's actually consistent, that's disciplined, that understands their why, that's really focused on all the things that we're kind of bringing to points of this whole mastermind. They're the ones that are going to continue to thrive. They're going to figure it out. They're going to understand that there's a lot of opportunity, even in an industry like sports nutrition or nutritional supplements. It is one that has a lot more digital kind of penetration. There's a lot more than the kind of grocery industry, a lot of those, but you still have upwards of 80% of the sales that come from physical retailers. So a lot of the sales are still going there. So regardless of the headlines you read and all that, it's just a matter of making that choice. Are you going to be somebody that's going to be differentiated or you're going to be remarkable in stuff that you do, or you're just going to go and kick your feet up and just kind of wait for customers to come in the door and just be one of those dinosaurs that end up dying. I'm assuming anybody that's in these doors here, you're obviously wanting to continuously learn, pick apart ideas, hopefully get something out of whoever's kind of talk that hopefully you can bring back and implement into your business. And that's what I'm talking about here, about making sure that you get to kind of stand out. But everything starts within the four walls. I kind of mentioned that. The idea that if you need to reverse sales declines, it's going to start within your four walls. If you want to attract new customers, it's going to start within your four walls. Increasing average basket or cart size or whatever kind of metric you guys use in terms of your order size, it's going to start within the four walls. And then generating customer loyalty is also going to start within your four walls. So this idea of have you covered the price of entry? I get this all the time where somebody hits me up and they're starting to throw all these kind of crazy ideas at me, and I start to ask them some basic questions and then don't have the answers to them. And I always tell them you want me to hand you the keys to a Ferrari, but you don't have a driver's license yet. I can't give you all these really crazy ideas and kind of, you point to these brands or retailers that are doing tens of millions or hundreds of millions of dollars. I want to do like them. I want to do what they're doing. And you don't realize that it was a huge path that took them to that. It's not going to be that they just started day one and just that's what they're doing. So you have to really be focused on the basics. And if you're not focused around the basics, why would somebody ever want to come back? Because you're not going to give them a consistent experience. So some of these were touched on, but like I said, this is kind of a part of marketing. This is a part of the kind of the first part of it, the product side, because as a retailer, part of the product is your retail operations. So the idea of having clean premises, making sure that you're taking pride in where you work each day, making sure that you are outside of maybe even the parking lot, sweeping up, making sure everything looks nice. I mean, it sounds silly to think at that level, but you need to be doing those things every single day because customers notice those things. You have clean staff appearance. I know that this is a big one for Tyler, and we talked about this one, is that everybody, we work in sports nutrition, we work in fitness and health and all that, and everybody wants to be relaxed, and everybody wants to, kind of wear t-shirts and shorts and whatever, but you have to think about what that maybe looks like when a customer comes in the door. They're expecting you to serve them and have an elevated amount of experience or knowledge in a certain very complex consumer product category. This has a lot of goals and intents around them. People do not understand what they need to do to get to that goal, and they're expecting you to be able to provide that information. So if you're looking like a slob, why would somebody pay attention to you? I don't know. It's just one of those things. So not to say that you have to be wearing a suit and a tie or whatever, but it's also just tax write-off and everything. Just get some branded polos. Just get some nice stuff that just looks consistent. Think about when you're in Target and you can't find something. How great is it to know that they're wearing a red t-shirt? You know where to go. That's kind of what I'm talking about with just the idea of the clean appearance. Then clear signage. Again, I don't know how big your guys' stores are. Some of them are probably pretty small, so it's not necessarily something that maybe would confuse a customer in terms of where they want to go. But just making sure that they understand maybe if they're looking for a pre-workout, how do they beeline to that? A lot of people are busy now. People are having the opportunity to shop online or cut their time down, kind of buy back their time in every way possible. So as a retail experience, you want to make sure that you are providing those kind of things to make sure that the customer can get in and out of the doors as quick as possible. And then quick engagement with the customer. I don't know how many times I've been to kind of mom and pop supplement shops where I walk in the door to just, maybe I'm traveling to a client or something like that. I'm in there just maybe to get a protein bar or an energy drink, and the dude's just behind the glass case and he's just sitting there. He doesn't even come up and say, "What do you need? What's going on?" To ask me the basic kind of questions to try to decide what kind of customer I am, what needs do I have, what do I need to do. They just kind of sit back and relax. So the idea of just making sure you're engaging quickly with the customer goes along with it, because this is all a part of that product that you're putting out from the marketing standpoint. And if you're not creating a good, consistent, positive customer experience, customers are going to go somewhere else. So now that we're kind of, obviously, gave you guys a little bit of the license to drive here, we could start a little bit more on the idea of maybe the fun stuff here. So we talked about the customer experience piece of it. The other side, I think, is probably what you guys assume this talk would be about, more around the in-store specials, maybe around the customer data or like loyalty programs or something like that. So that's kind of what we're going to shift this talk into now, just so you guys can get a little bit more of the meat on that side of things. So creating brand loyalists, that's your goal in terms of a customer. There's transactional customers, there are customers that buy products but really don't advocate for you, and then there's brand loyalists or brand advocates. Those are the ones that buy, they tell their friends, they write reviews, they help you in your own marketing. They are within your four walls. When you create a great customer experience with these types of customers and continue to reinforce that, they're the ones that are doing the marketing for you. They're out there speaking their mind. And a few stats that I thought were pretty interesting. You had 92% of customers believe that friends and family, their recommendations are better than advertisements. So you guys hear that all the time. I mean, that's what you're looking for. You're hoping that a positive experience gets told to friends and all that. But another one to kind of think about is that 88% trust online reviews as same as personal recommendations from these friends and family. So very similar customer reviews. So think about that. And I work with a lot of the brand side. We speak a lot around like Amazon reviews and making sure that those are cleaned up and good. But for your guys' business, a lot of it's like Yelp or Google or whatever. It's like making sure that you are paying attention to those reviews. Also, if there is a bad experience on there, you are engaging with that customer, making sure that whatever they had a bad experience with, it shows online that you're trying to correct it. Because if it is, regardless if it's a bad review or not, it shows that you're trying to fix it. So a customer that looks at a bad review and sees that you're trying to fix it in an amicable way, in a very professional way, it looks just as good as a positive review for you. So just kind of think about those types of things. So customer experience, we talked about the basics. That is kind of the cornerstone of the customer experience piece of this. Then there's the idea of like, why should a customer spend any money with you? I think that's a question that you guys should be asking yourself every single day, because even the biggest retailers lose on this. This is the reason why GNC is failing. This is the reason why Vitamin Shop is failing. This is the reason why Bodybuilding.com's revenue is down 50%. Is because they haven't really established why my customer is shopping with you. Why is that customer spending their hard-earned money with me over anybody else? There's so many substitutes out there now that if you just think if you're going to do the basic kind of stuff, or maybe you're just going to slide by and maybe not even focus on the basics, you're going to lose those customers because somebody else is going to be exceptional. Somebody else is going to give them the exact reason why they should be shopping with them, and they're going to go with them. They're not going to go with you guys. You're not going to have that retail environment anymore. There's a lot of substitutions, online, offline, mass retailers. You guys are dealing with an onslaught of competition across all the boards. You have Walmart impending, you got Target, you got 7-Elevens, you got everybody trying to get your customers. Specialty retail no longer is the only place you can buy supplements anymore. And that's something you guys have to think about. How are we going to stand out to make sure that we're not going to be one of these stories that everybody's talking about now and thinking that retail's dying? You have to try to figure out that you're going to be exceptional and make sure that you are telling or thinking to yourself, how am I going to make sure that customer's spending money with me? What is that reason? And the kind of the buzzword of things you see around a lot of the retail industry now is that like this exclusive experience. How do I create an exclusive experience? What makes my store different than anybody else's? And that can be done in tons of different ways. Honestly, on my YouTube channel, there's like 30 or 40 minutes of me just blabbing about all those different things. But what I'll say is that you want to try to focus on what is completely differentiated. So the product side of things, like the actual product or the brands you're going to bring in, I think that's what most people think about when they're thinking about exclusive experiences. You guys know better than anybody that you can get 100 different pre-workouts in the door, and though you might have you might think this is differentiated or whatever, it's all the same stuff 95% of it. It's all the same stuff. So even if you do have an exclusive agreement with a certain brand, it's not necessarily creating an exclusive experience because there's 100 other substitutions to that product. They might not have that exact product, but they have products that are very similar, so it doesn't make much of a difference on that side. So it's about more on the experience side of it, like what does that customer get from when they come in the door to your guys' store? I am always such a big advocate in the idea of thinking about things like sensory and thinking about things that can't be duplicated very well, especially like online. One of the things is around like sampling, and I know that sampling is kind of tough because sometimes you have to get a lot of those samples from brands, but what I would say is that most brands, if they want to be in your store and they want to be able to sell well, and you tell them exactly how they're going to sell well, they're going to bend over backwards to do whatever that is. So if that is, hey, can you send me 2 units for free? You can write sample on them all you want. I'm not going to sell them, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to put them in a drink dispenser. I'm going to put them in things. So having the ability for a customer to come in and try products before, because a lot of times customers, especially now the mainstream lifestyle customers that are coming into the industry now, they don't have all of that history of the industry. So they want to taste things, they want to try it out, they want to do, and until Amazon has a drone that's going to pour a little sample of pre-workout in their throat, like they're not going to be able to compete against that. So you have to think about things like that. Like even the idea of like exclusive experiences in terms of maybe like just the music you're playing, like whatever. It's a lot of it's around maybe culture and fluff or whatever. But when somebody walks in the door to a certain retailer, they should get a certain feeling. They should get something that they can't get from shopping online. And if you can create that, that's what's going to differentiate yourself against any competitor, regardless if it's offline or online. And then I talked about just like the reviews. I forgot what the stat was, but it was well over 50% of businesses, local businesses, didn't have a mechanism to collect reviews. So the idea of feedback loops, having a customer actually tell you what they got out of that experience is invaluable to you. If you have no idea what that customer's thinking, how are you supposed to correct any of the things within your business? So asking for reviews, asking for, maybe it doesn't have to be on Yelp, it doesn't have to be on Google, it doesn't have to be anything. It could be something like internal to your business. The goal is for you to get feedback, get a feedback loop so you can understand how to correct things. That might be because maybe your employee is not maybe fundamentally doing the correct thing, or maybe that's something from pricing, something from maybe the experience they get within the store, music, whatever that is, but it helps you at least get better over time. And a lot of the industry in terms of the local retailer side, and this has nothing to do with us, but I would say that the vast majority of you guys within this don't have a review mechanism. Like, how are you going to create that conversation to make sure that somebody knows to give you a little bit of feedback? So in-store specials, this is kind of a hot button, I guess, across the industry as a whole. You guys hear the words like race to the bottom. Everybody's trying to create the next $3 pre-workout that they could sell. That's not going to help anybody. You know what I mean? I think that there is onus on every side of the industry here, the retail side, the distributor side, the brand side. Every single side of this is causing this race to the bottom, but it's not solving any of your guys' problems. Having that race to the bottom is not differentiating you, is not creating any value to customers, it's not doing anything. To run specials doesn't do anything for you. That's not the goal when you're running a special. You need to figure out what is the problems within my business, and these in-store specials should be what solves those problems. It shouldn't be that you're just running the specials to run specials. So you should be thinking tactically, strategically around what are these in-store specials, promotions going to be. So few kind of problems that you guys probably have thought about in terms of like decreasing foot traffic. That's just kind of a natural thing that's happening where a lot more people are shopping online. So utilizing something like functional foods. This is going to be something I'm going to talk about later today, but the idea that a lot of people now are coming into your guys' store and treating it similar to like a convenience store. They come in and they just pick up an energy drink, or they just pick up a protein bar and they walk out the door. That didn't happen 5 years ago or 7 years ago. That wasn't as common. Now that is very common, and you guys might be getting frustrated when you're thinking like, oh, that's a $2 ticket, $3 ticket. Like, how am I supposed to constantly do this, especially when I have decreasing foot traffic? But what those things are doing is they're driving people into your store. So you have to utilize them in a proper manner. A strategy that GNC has been utilizing, you guys might have seen some of like the digital stuff, but they're doing like $1 energy drinks. And a lot of people were defaulting to, well, they gotta be going out of business if they can sell energy drinks for $1. How are they gonna do this? And there's obviously a bunch of mechanisms in terms of how they're making that still profitable for them, but the goal is they're creating a loss leader pricing strategy to bring you in the door, and then they're training their associates a certain way to make sure they get one of two things. One, some type of upsell or cross-sell, and then two, they're at least trying to get customer data. And that's your guys' kind of currency in the new world. If you guys plan on being a retailer for a long period of time, you're gonna need to figure out how to collect customer data and then utilize customer data. So sometimes a $3 ticket, but also getting that person into your funnel is worth way more than that $3. So just thinking about like why you are utilizing a special. You might lose 50 cents on the dollar for every energy drink person that comes in and just buys an energy. But I'm guessing that if you guys are good salespeople or you train your people right, you can either get them into buying something else, or you can at least get them to sign up for that loyalty program that you guys are then being able to market them over time. You can create more of customer lifetime value. You know, that's kind of the goal here. So there's thinking about strategically, why am I running the specials that I'm running, making sure that I'm utilizing maybe the negative things that you think in your business and using them as a positive. The second one's like decreasing revenue, and talked about like all the other retailers impeding into your guys' space and selling supplements. It's kind of taking what they do really well and using it against them also. It's not just the idea of being scared of them. A lot of these retailers, especially certain channels, they do certain things really well. And utilizing what they do well in your own business can just elevate what you're doing. So the idea of taking a page from like convenience stores. Convenience stores are notorious for how they set up their stores and making sure that you buy certain things while you're kind of going through the high foot traffic areas. And they have a lot of really great stuff right at your the cash register that attracts you to buy a little bit more. So when you have somebody coming in and just buying something for $3, $4, $5, but yet when they get out the door, their ticket was $10, and you get more and more of those people, that just fundamentally increases your revenue a couple percent over time. And there's a bunch of different kind of strategies or tactics to kind of think about how you maybe lay out your retail store, or maybe how you put certain things in front of the cash register or your guys' iPads. But that's just kind of what you need to kind of start thinking about when you're running specials. It's, what is my problem? Let's figure out what the root cause of that problem that I'm trying to solve, and then fundamentally creating a plan of action around some of these marketing mechanisms like in-store specials to actually resolve those problems. So I talked a little bit about customer data. It's not just enough to know your customer's name. I mean, it's great to be a human and obviously know your customer. You are getting them in your funnel because you guys all have the same tools available to you that every other big retailer in the world or every other big, massive billion-dollar brand has to them. You have the same marketing platforms in terms of Facebook. You have the same email capabilities. You have all these things. So all it takes is getting that first amount of customer data, and then at least you get started. Now there's a ton of other kind of advanced things to think about, like what am I actually asking for from the customer to actually maybe segment or personalize the marketing a little bit more, maybe asking just basic gender things, maybe asking maybe what's their goal, is it fat loss, is it weight gain, is it whatever it is, like making sure you're segmenting these customers, because eventually what you want to get to is that you want to personalize these marketing mechanisms. On Facebook, you have tons of different things, like from a psychographic standpoint, that you can drill down to specific people. Same with email. You want to segment exactly what those people are. You don't want to send somebody maybe a new female line that you picked up and it's a dude. It's just not something that makes any sense. You're just wasting that marketing spend by not being able to personalize it. So there is this idea of like figuring out what do you want to actually capture. And a lot of that comes down to how savvy you are, like what's your budget. You don't want to just collect thousands of points of data and then not know what to do with them. I mean, it's great to kind of have it there, but eventually you're going to have to mine that data to actually get anything from it. So start with the basics, at least at the start. Maybe get them into your funnel, and then as they become more of a bigger customer for you, maybe then you ask some additional questions to make sure you can segment them or personalize them a little bit more. But you can kind of connect a bunch of systems. I think most of you guys are obviously probably using some type of point of sale system on your iPads or whatever. They have that ability. A lot of times you're maybe not doing it, or you're trying to just shove the customer out the door really quick and you're not thinking about asking those questions or whatever. But you think about, again, I'll go back to Target because they're a really strong retailer to kind of look at recently, but
think about it, every time you go into Target, they ask you about the red card. They ask every single time. They ask you the same kind of thing. So a lot of times it's making sure you're training yourself, making sure your employees are trained correctly to ask the right questions to get the customer data out there. Because, said it again, if you plan on being in retail for a long time, you're going to need to capture customer data, because if not, your competitors will, and you're going to lose out. This is the new age currency. This is what you need to be focusing on, because there's going to be things that I know Mike was probably going to be talking about in terms of like social media marketing and all of that. That is going to be the biggest piece of asset that you have, is this customer data. And if you don't have that, and you're not able to personalize the effort, you're going to be struggling. So I talked a lot about this, and this is maybe a little bit more of a complex idea in terms of like loyalty programs. Like most of the time, even some of the biggest retailers, it's always been a linear thing. Like the more money you spend, you get a certain percentage of points or whatever it is. That has kind of taken away for the new type, more personalized loyalty program. I think about loyalty, I guess I should ask the question, like, do anybody in the room, do you guys have a loyalty program? Because you think about this, like loyalty programs might seem like everybody has them, and you're like, oh, well, I don't know if mine's going to be any differentiated. But you think about maybe even like the credit cards that are in your pocket. You spend money on certain credit cards because either you get cash back, you get certain maybe rewards for your flights, whatever. You make a conscious effort to pick that because of a loyalty program. So just take yourself back to being a consumer and think, well, somebody, even if I can get 2 or 3% more people buying from me because I have a loyalty program, it's worthy of your time and effort to do this. But there's the personalization aspect of like kind of more advanced thought of it is not just doing a linear program and thinking that the customer can have a little bit more choice in this. Like Amazon does it with like now you get to pick your own Prime Day. You don't just get to do their Prime Day. I know Vitamin Shop, just to kind of bring it closer to home, like they have a lot more where they have like birthday ones, and they have ones where you can actually pick what your actual rewards is when you get that kind of milestone. It's not just we give you a $5 coupon like it used to be. So part two, like outside the four walls, one of my biggest pet peeves in all of this is that like outside the four walls, like retail marketing is not like kicking your feet up and posting on Instagram for your X hundred followers, and you think that is marketing. Like, first of all, you only get about 6% of reach, organic reach. So even if you have 2,000, what's that, 120 type of followers, and then most of those followers are even bots. They're not even real people, or they're not even local to your business. So if you don't even have an online retailer, you're not these. So what I'm trying to say is, if you think to yourself that that is marketing, I'm just going to post up to my 2,500 followers because I got abs and biceps and people are obviously going to listen to me. It's not going to work. It's not going to work. So you got to think like a business person. You got to think, how do we actually drive meaningful results, meaningful sales? It's not going to be posting to your personal Instagram. I mean, I'm not saying not to do that, but what I'm saying is that there's things that you need to do much more important along with it to make an impact. So Insta famous, that's kind of the biggest thing nowadays. Like that's the #1 job goal for elementary. If you ask them what they want to be, most of them say YouTuber. That's what they want to be. They don't want to be a doctor, they don't want to be a sports player, they want to be a YouTuber. So you think about that, and most of you guys in here probably spend a lot of time on Instagram. Again, you think, hey, I got 10,000 followers, I got all these people, I'm going to become Insta famous, I'm going to be the next Christian Guzman or whatever, I'm going to have all this kind of stuff. But what you forget is you're running a local business. So what's more important here is you want to be a local celebrity. Like, don't think about being an Insta famous person. You need to be somebody that is known in the community. So as a local business, that means like getting out there and beating the streets. That means making friends, making a name for yourself. That is like actual face-to-face, hand-to-hand conversations. That's shaking all the business owners in the 4 blocks. That's reaching out to maybe the prominent people in that town. Is that maybe bloggers, vloggers? Is that news organizations, reporters? Like whoever are the people that are other celebrities that you want to get to that level, that's who you want to reach out to. That's who you want to make friends with. And that's also just like the idea of like reaching out to local community members and local leaders and who are the business leaders in the space. They're all connected. That's who you want to be. That's the people that you want to ultimately know because they're going to drive people to you, especially if you share your why. if you share your vision, if you actually show that you're passionate about something and you're going to take care of whoever they bring to you, that's going to be what you want to do. That's not about just having 10,000 followers. It doesn't matter how many followers you have on Instagram, because those people probably are not going to spend $1 with you. They might look at you and think you're a good-looking guy or girl, but that's not going to help your business. What's more important is making sure that you are a local celebrity in this, whatever those local community is that you have, because those are the people that are going to be shopping with you. Those are the people that are going to be sending their friends. Those are the people that are going to be supporting you, putting food on your kids' plates. That's what you want to focus on. It's not about the people that you're never going to meet in real life or whatever on Instagram. So this was all about just kind of like, let's be a human first. Let's get back to being a human. That's what local marketing is all about. But there's also this idea of like local marketing strategy that I want to at least make sure you guys could touch on. But most of you guys in this room, I know in the raise a hand, there wasn't many that had a lot of stores. So a lot of you guys are probably still in your store a lot. And you don't have a lot of employees. And if you do have employees, maybe it's part-time. And it's tough for you even to pay those employees. So when you do take time out of your business, make sure it counts. So if you are going out in local marketing and you are kind of beating the streets and meeting people and doing all these types of things, kind of take a step back before you at least start doing those things and think, how can I make the biggest impact? How am I going to actually make the most amount of kind of results in the time that I'm taking away from this store? So the idea of figuring out what's the demographic and psychographic of the area in which the population in which your supplement store is. So I've used the term psychographic a few times, and maybe that glossed over your guys' eyes, might not know what that is. That's basically the why behind people. That's their aspirations, their ambitions. That's the psychological part of a person. Demographics is the who. That's just the basic stuff that everybody kind of focuses on. So there's the idea of trying to figure out, one, obviously who is within that community, how much money do they make, what are their education levels, male, female, basic demographic type things. But then there's also the why, what is their goals, what are their ambition levels, are they, what's their makeup of their psychology that actually you can utilize for some of the other marketing vehicles to make sure that you're positioning the marketing to actually attract the right crowd. You're not just doing it to do it. And this kind of goes down what do people do in the neighborhood? You should have an understanding of the neighborhood. You should have an understanding is there running clubs? Are people into triathlons? Are people, are they more into just the bodybuilding lifestyle there? Whatever it is that you guys, is it a lot of kids that kids are in, different rec leagues and things like that? You should be knowing all these things about your customers, because that's going to ultimately help you with some of these things that we'll be talking about later. And then trends, like what's going on in the community, are there hot buttons, are there things going on? You should be paying attention to what's going on around you. If you have more knowledge, the more knowledge is power. You can utilize that knowledge for anything. I'm talking about this in the sense of marketing, but you can utilize it in all aspects of your life or your business as a whole. So this idea of creating lifestyle intersections. So again, we're thinking outside the four walls here. So there's the people that come into your store, the people that shop in your store. That's one side of it. A lot of times when we talk about outside the four walls, a lot of times people talk about omni-channel type of things. I know that's not my topic, so I'm not going to cover it a lot. But so we're talking more about how do you get in front of customers where they are naturally acting, where they're doing their daily lives. How do you get your brand, your retail brand, your store in front of those customers where they are naturally acting, where they're doing their day-to-day? Because a lot of times they're not stopping into your store. They're going to take their kids to here, or maybe they're doing a local club, or whatever it is. Making sure that you're able to attract them and where they are spending a lot of their time, and creating your brand to bring them back to your store eventually is the goal here. So this is the idea. A lot of you guys are probably utilizing this already with the partnerships with gyms. Obviously people are going with their lives day to day. They're going into the gym. They're going to want supplements. Hopefully that gym probably doesn't sell their own supplements. If they don't, maybe you guys can create some partnership where you put some stuff on consignment, or they buy some stuff wholesale from you guys. And if not, it's also just basic sampling. Thing that you guys are doing, blocking, tackling, basic stuff, but it's getting people where they are just naturally, their lifestyle is naturally going. another one that kind of maybe people haven't really thought about, a lot of corporate offices now, local corporate offices, are looking to get healthier for you, better for you. Like healthcare costs are going through the roof. There's a lot of things that go in and help those costs get down. A lot of that is like a corporate wellness program. So sometimes if there are small offices and things like that that maybe are now stocking Oreos and Fritos and stuff like that, you could come in and say, hey, we'll stock protein bars, we'll stock these types of things, you just buy them for me. That's another kind of partnership. People are working, they spend 60 to 70% of their days, sometimes at work. So if you can get them to be into your brand's ecosystem by offering them products while they're working, that just helps you overall. If they had a good experience with the product that you sold that corporate wellness program, then you can then get them in the stores. And then sampling sites, like in the gyms is one thing that's kind of point A, but think about all the other kind of events that are going on, all the other high activity levels. There's a lot of like bike trails in Austin. I live in Austin, Texas. There's a lot of those types of things where people are constantly active, people are constantly at. And you could offer something like a quick hitter where you're sampling some stuff or you're showing off your brand or maybe you're handing out things or doing whatever that is. And maybe you need to go through the local government to make sure that you do some of those things or not. But the point is, if people are being active and those are your customers, or at least the customers that you hope to attract, and they're doing things on their day-to-day lives, try to get in front of them however possible. And if that is, setting up shop at a local running trail for a couple hours to sample some products, that might be way better for your business than going to the same gym over and over and over again. You want to try to, get some different people into the system, especially ones that maybe aren't going to that gym or aren't going to your store already. You want to try to get them into some different, get some different customers into your funnel. So we talked about some of this kind of stuff about participation in community events. So just thinking about what you can do to create strategic participation in certain events. There are tons of different events that you could be doing. I can't remember who had talked about it. It might have been Cody that talked about just making sure you know the reason why you're spending money and that you're getting some ROI out of this. I'm not advocating that you guys just slap your logo on a bunch of things and just spend a bunch of money just to feel like you're there and feel like you're cool. I'm talking about actually taking an interest in certain maybe nonprofits, maybe local sports teams. I know that was, when I was a kid, that was a big thing. You had certain retailer or something's on your chest or on your hat or your baseball team. That was a sense of pride as a local marketer to be able to do that type of thing. And that drove business because you're man, they're supporting my kids, I want to support them. And there's so many other ideas in terms of farmers markets. Now, there's always a tactic or some kind of nuts and bolts behind any of these things that I'm talking about. I'm just kind of throwing some stuff out there. But even with a farmer's market, you wouldn't obviously want to put a bunch of national brands out there. This is maybe highlighting local brands. This is getting a little bit closer to the people that are there. You want to make sure that you're getting the most benefit if you are going to spend any money in any way. Every kind of city has community colleges or maybe major colleges. They have, especially in Austin, I'm sure most of the other metro areas, multi-dwelling unit events. I live in a high-rise, and most people live in at least a mid-rise or something like that if they are renting now. There's a lot of events that get put on by those community managers because they're trying to have a bigger, have more people stay longer into those rentals. So a lot of times, at least at the building that I live in, they have a gym that comes in a lot of times. They have a yoga studio, they have all these types of things. And they also have sampling with some of the local kombucha, and this is Austin-y, so this is granola head type of stuff, but they do a lot of those types of things. So you guys can partner up with some of those big dwelling units because there's 5, 6, 1,000 units in there. I'm gonna guess a lot of those people probably either are trying to get in shape or have some goal that you guys can meet. And then the idea of adult rec leagues or any of those types, there's a ton of different ideas there. And then last point here is around moonshots or creating big splash events. This is a ton of different things you can think about when you're doing these types of big events. One that just happened recently, you guys were maybe the block party at Natural Body. That's kind of his big event that he puts on. He has tons of different vendors there. He spends a lot of time making sure that that is kind of a mini expo for his customers, and he really thinks about that a long time. But there's tons of different ideas of thinking about like on-brand moonshot type of things, and that could be lifting events. And that's not you putting your logo on. This is you actually creating an event. This is actually you spending the time to curate an event that's specific to your retail brand. So whatever you stand for, your why, should be what this is. And I just threw like some basic ones out there, like lifting events or athletic events, but this could be something like even like a bake-off, like where you have people using protein, your protein, and having them and having the local community come in and try the different baked goods. Because if all of a sudden a customer understands that, oh, you can bake with this, or oh, these protein treats taste really good, I'm going to guess you're going to be able to convert a lot of people over to buying protein powder. And that's still at this point 70% of the market. So you want to make sure that whatever you can do to drive sales, you can. So these kind of unique kind of ideas to think about that. But it's all about, to me, I think about being exceptional when you're doing these events. So you can always go and do the easy path. You can always do the kind of the easy thing. Like if you're going to do a lifting event, maybe you do a trophy and you just go buy one of those trophies and that have a little lifter guy on it, and that's it, and that's all you do. Or you could create some like crazy looking trophy that somebody's going to be like, one, they really want it, or two, when they see it at the event, they're going to take a bunch of pictures of it. They're going to be whatever. That is the difference between just doing the basics and actually thinking about this being exceptional, making sure it's on brand, making sure that you are spending money and you're spending money in the right way. You don't want to just spend money on marketing, because that's just going to get you bankrupt. You want to think about all the time, how is this going back to my why? How is this actually going to be on brand? Because if not, the idea around you spending to just spend, you can't do that anymore. That's not what you need to be doing. So I think that's it, because we're doing Q&A at the end.
Yes.
All right.
So I just wanted to thank you guys for watching this video. If you're interested in the PowerPoint slides for this Retail Marketing 101 presentation that I did, I'm going to be putting that on SlideShare. I'm going to have the links down below for you guys if you would like to look at those PowerPoint decks. I know that it is difficult to maybe see it on the video because of the exposure levels with the bright white screen and me and the lighting and the wind. So I want to make sure I can give you guys those PowerPoint slides there. If you are a retailer, or maybe anybody that watched this video, and you have some questions or things around your specific business that you would like to ask me, all of my links are down below. If you want to reach out, I'd be glad to discuss any of those types of things for you. If not, I hope you guys got some value out of this video. I know I enjoyed presenting at this mastermind. I know that this was the first year they had a full house, and they're going to be doing this next year as well. So if you did not attend this year, you missed out as a retailer, be it international retailer, be it a local retailer, be it a chain, supplement store, whatever that is, you are not in the room. I would suggest making sure that you mark this down for next year, and making sure that you reach out to Tyler Parsons or the guys over at Defyned Brands to make sure that you are on the list for next year's event.